A spiritual journey is one that is defined by divine spirit through astrological signs, guided by divine gods, ancestral energy, and one's birthright. Ngiyindoni yamanzi, intombi yenkosi, chosen to walk in this dimension to heal through sound and vibrations. I invite you to hear with your soul as we become one with the universe, with nature, through all elements given by our gods. Thokozani izindodlo ezinamandla, siyakhuleka emakhosini, amakhehla amadala, nina basezulwini nasemanzini. Gitindauwe. Welcome, divine souls. Let's begin. In this episode, we'll be tackling the topic of, are some of our traditions miseducation? I had to ask a few people to send me their views on this topic, so we get to understand it in different concepts. I came to the realization that some traditions are miseducation that can hinder the livelihood of our growth as people, as abantu, boNtu, and understanding and opening ourselves to the ever-evolving world. Let me not take too much of your time and welcome Menzi, Gudu Mase, and Khadi to tell us their views on this topic.
Traditions. Customs and beliefs that we've been told have been passed out from generation to generation. These are supposed acts that our forefathers used to engage in, and we as a particular lineage all have our own little beliefs and customs. Or do we? Let's delve into that. Let me break it down. Tradition is any mark, a symbol, food, drink, literature, and the likes that the powers that be allow you and have decided for you that that is a part of your people's history. But if you look closely, you will find that there are recurring symbols that one can trace back to ancient times. You can also find them across religions and societies. Those are the keys to the real tradition. Not wearing black when someone else dies, or follow patriarchal gender roles that have been told that this is what our people believed in. Gender roles. The miseducation of traditions is on a worldwide scale, so much so that the people who actually know what their forefathers truly worshipped are scarce. These symbols that I talk about, that I say are recurring symbols, and what you'll find them nowadays is modernized, is you'll find a modernized version of it. It's symbols such as the ankh that have been modified to the Christian cross, where their Lord, Jesus Christ, was allegedly crucified. But other signs such as the Masonic royal rich apron, the seal of Satan, the eye of providence, that you will find across multinational logos. It's all these signs or symbols that have been modernized and sort of hidden. Tradition is the modernized physical manifestation of spiritual symbols. To hide knowledge and esoteric wisdom, physical and tangible ornaments are created that use the intangible that are symbols. Let me say that again. Tradition is the modernized physical manifestation of spiritual symbols. This is done to hide knowledge and esoteric wisdom through these physical and tangible ornaments that they create to house the intangible that are these symbols. So, symbolism is the marker in the tangibles for the intangible. If you really want to find out what actual traditions are, you don't go out and ask. You go within and ask there. I'll delve even more. Things like river cleansers, mourning clothes, eating utensils, slaughtering of animals are tangibles that hide an esoteric meaning. The propaganda machines hide the truth in words like facts and create libraries of lies binded in hardcovers, which are agreed upon by groups of men and women who control the joystick of our societies. So can we honestly say that this is something that was passed down from generation to generation, that our forefathers actually did these things, when it's a group of people that decided that, no, let these people celebrate like this, let these people do this, and tell them it's their tradition, tell them it's facts. Yeah, create a book, have it be published by a publishing company, and have it be written by an author, and then tell them it's facts. Yeah, they won't question if we say it's a fact. What this actually is the wealthy taking a piss on us and the media telling us it's rain. What is really real, if you have to really, really ask and delve? I mean, let's look at it. A woman decided to wear black clothes to mourn her dead husband. Then a nation adopted that as how Yes, no, how you must wear black because you're mourning. All because of one white lady who decided to mourn her husband by wearing black every day. Then you have leaders of countries that took a decision on how they would be Christians. So Christianity was created by a group, and then some didn't like that sort of version, and they went and they created their own, but within the Christian realms. They created attire for these breakaways called denominations. And now we have the AME, Bofora, Bo Methodist, all whose colors can be traced back to European country flags. And this is tradition. Hey, tradition. Okay. A woman on her periods in many religions and cultures is deemed to be unclean. She's said to be impure. She must hide even. To hide the fact that she is God and her blood is one of the most powerful elixirs you will ever find on planet Earth. For the woman to never actually realize her power, she is said to be inferior. She's said to be unclean when she's on her period. She can't even touch certain things in some churches, so that she can never ever fathom the fact that she is the creator, that her blood is an elixir of life. Slavery is taught as our history to hide the fact that we are warriors who defeated many a Neanderthal and we ruled the earth. We taught Neanderthal civilization. We taught them mathematics. Heavens, we introduced them to soap and water. But today they call us barbarians. The question cannot be, is tradition miseducation? We have been miseducated since the overthrowing of our royal kingdoms, the burning down of our libraries, and the acceptance of non-blacks in our villages. Nothing, actually, that we practice today as culture, as tradition, is our actual tradition. It is something the white man decided and is allowing us to practice so that we never actually go within and find our true tradition. The only way man can know what their true tradition is to go within. Don't let a book tell you. Don't let a man tell you. Don't let a woman tell you. Because the thing about it is that each and every person can amend as they want. In the same way, a man can decide, in his household, there will no longer be any rituals that take place. He will slaughter one animal and it will be the end. And that will be his tradition. So then the rest of the lineages from there is supposed to learn that. So now, Grandshap, what is the real thing if anybody can amend as and when they please? I say to you, there's no such thing as tradition. The only way you can find out what your true tradition is to go within. And your universe will reveal to you what you should be doing to celebrate. Nothing else. Everything in these books, everything in these libraries, these well-knowns who knew the Asians. They should just be a guide. When you listen to someone that's supposedly telling you facts, and I say facts in inverted commas, that is a research piece for you to go research for yourself. But your greatest source has to be within, never external. Ke kgoshigadi mamuso thato ditlhakanyana. Ke wa Bataung, ke wa Magolokwe, ke Mokwena. Ke a leboha.
Greetings, Togozani, Makosi, everyone. It's Menzi Gudu Mase here from eThekwini, currently living in Gauteng, in Azania, Southern Africa. Are some of our traditions part of miseducation? It is a great question. I would like to begin by quoting something from a work that is very, very famous, published in 1964 by, again, another infamous or famous author, sage, African scholar, if I may use those words, Umkhulu uCredo Vusamazulu, Credo Vusamazulu Motwa. Everybody likes to quote him or speak about him, but sometimes you can just tell that a lot of people that are speaking about him have not actually really studied his work or even read thoroughly his magnum opus, the great book, which is a lot more fable than history. And you can call it oral history. A lot of what it says is true, but a lot of what it says, a lot of what is stated in it cannot be true. It is storytelling. It is a genius kind of storytelling, but there's a lot of parables, there's lots of legends. It's an epic. Now, one should ask themselves what to take as truth and what to take as just stories to drive home a lesson or allegories, so to speak. So I'm just going to read from the back page of the book what it says, and then I'm going to speak about the subject of whether some of our traditions are fables. But first, let me just respond by saying, yes, some of what we learn from our tradition is miseducation. But what is miseducation? Miseducation is wrong information being taught as correct without question. That is miseducation. When someone is passing on information with the premise that it is true, yet further evidence, all evidence points to the fact that it is untrue. That information is miseducation, and it is dangerous because a lot of gullible people may take it as truth, and education can lead to certain actions which are harmful to either the individual or that society. So what does Indaba My Children say? What is said about it in its back page? I quote, "Whenever the names look like being forgotten and the memories overwhelmed by the events of time, the preservation of cultural traditions assume a new, more vital importance. Believing that the tales he learned from the elders gave direction to his life and motivated him to further his knowledge of his people's history, Vusamazulu Credo Motwa, through the ancient art of storytelling, takes on that commitment to preserve, promote, and revive the past." First published in 1964, Indaba My Children is an internationally acclaimed collection of tales and legends that charts the story of African tribal life It is through these stories that one is able to reconstruct the past of Africa. It is through these stories that intertribal friendship or hatred was kept alive and burning. That the young were told who their ancestors were, who their enemies were, and who their friends were. Excelling in the medium of storytelling, the Vusama Zulu, Awakener of the Zulus, provides a collection that sets the reader on a beautiful and spirited journey through the tales and legends of Africa. Now, as I've already said, it is difficult sometimes when you read this book to differentiate between the legend and the history. The book is huge. I think it's a 694 pages. That does not include the glossary. The glossary, right? Now, a lot happens in this book. I know the subject matter for this conversation is not really the book, but I'm using the book as an example of how certain traditions become customs and customs become habits, and the people who practice these customs, habits, and traditions do not question a lot what it is that they are practicing. They just say some wise person said it, or the elders said it, or we heard. Now we're living in the 21st century according to the Gregorian calendar. We're living in a time where science is required in almost every practice. Scientific erudition, scientific and even spiritual discernment. Just a way of telling whether something is true or false, whether it is useful or useless. Now, miseducation, again, that notion that something can be taught as a reality when instead it is a fantasy. It is a deep problem in African what I call mythopoetic life, or mythic poetic life. Right. What happens is, as some traditions are passed down or passed on from generation to generation, there comes a time when things change. Things are in constant change. Things are in constant flux. Nothing stays the same. Yet people, African people specifically, that we are speaking about here, tend to hold on to traditions that have outlived their sell-by date, so to speak. Notions that are no longer useful for the pursuance of well-being and continuation of life in the present generation. So what do you do? How do you show people that whatever they're practicing is no longer practical? It does not fit the context of the day. That culture is dynamic, and it is up to the practitioners to transform so that they can transform themselves, so that they can thrive. It is difficult. Storytelling is very important. Who tells the story is very important. Who passes on the tradition and why. Those things are significant, because knowing who is telling the story and where they get their story from and trusting the source is very important in the continuation of tradition. But why do we have tradition, and how can we tell whether this tradition is no longer serving us? I think there are practical examples whereby you practice something and you do not get results. You are told a goat is necessary for a particular ritual without asking yourself, why exactly a goat? You are thinking 21st century person, an African anywhere in the world, being asked to buy a goat to do a particular ritual, or to go to a particular place and practice a particular ritual, without questioning and without proper discernment, you may do exactly that and still find yourself in deeper trouble or in deeper confusion because you were not given full information. How do we get full information? Searching and seeking for the truth is very important. But where do you get it from? Who are the authorities? In the practical sense, a lot of the time, people go to mediums, the traditional doctors, the traditional healers. Yet, a lot of the traditional healers grow up within a context of colonization, within environments which have been colonized and not yet decolonized and Africanized. They may practice Isintu, they may practice the cultural traditions passed on to them by whoever the custodians of culture are, the gobelas, the ones who are the master teachers in the initiation rites. Yet the very same custodians and gobelas and the master teachers in the initiation rites may be found wanting in terms of the knowledge of the past, and they only receive whatever they trust what they receive from their own teachers. Yet it is being revealed the more we see that there is a great rise, there's a great what's the right word? Not continuum, but there is I would say a trend towards people where you see a lot of people becoming other sangomas, traditional healers of various sorts. Some are clairvoyant, some are waking up to their gifts of other clairvoyance, prescience, various healing traditions. So there is a blend, there is a synergy, there is a convergence of various traditions. A person can be a doctor and still be a traditional healer, a lawyer and a traditional healer, a scientist, like my brother Ank Shabalala, Mkulu Ank of the Amen Ra Institute, a scientist who practices ancient Kemetic traditions and teaches about them, teaches the quantum. Well, it uses scientific terms to explain ancient African principles, ancient Nile Valley principles. So it is possible to live a scientifically erudite life and with discernment and still practice African traditions without miseducation. But it is also possible to continue traditions that are wrong or that do not fit the needs and the practical necessities of that time, of this time, because you are saying you are just carrying on the tradition, you have ubizo, or the calling. So where does miseducation enter? Miseducation, again, is a way where something wrong is taught and it is thought of as right. Two things may be happening. The teachers may be delusional or living in an illusion of reality, or the receiver, the student, the novice, may be practicing whatever they are being taught, which is an illusion, because they trust the master teacher, or the eagerness of the novice or the initiate, the eagerness to find clarity, to find truth, or to hold on to something when everything around them seems not to be working. Either they are sick or they are having a series of misfortunes, and then they find something that seems to be an elixir or a panacea for their illness or their disharmony that they're experiencing at the time. Now, when a traditional solution is offered, there is a possibility that the traditional solution is not as practical and is not as useful as it should be. So the seeker, the initiate, carries on seeking. Similar with this book of Baba Credo Moto, a discerning reader will find that the legends are just that, legends. They may be blended with some truth, but there are some people, there's a lot of us. Even myself, I have quoted Credo Moto, but sometimes I quote him with tongue-in-cheek, quote some of the work in order to probe into people's perception and understanding of what they are reading. But you can tell that some of the tales are far from true. They are the product of a person's imagination. I spoke earlier about the authority. Now, we have been told that this particular author, this writer who wrote in 1964, or published this in 1964, he had been writing since the 40s or 50s. The elder wrote this from a good place to preserve tradition. Yet was it preserving tradition, or was it preserving traditional imagination and the traditional methods of preserving oral history, taking oral history and putting it in book form, doing something that a lot of traditionalists were not doing? It was only white or European or Eurocentric anthropologists and priests that would write our history. Therefore, it will still emerge as untrue or miseducation, because a lot of those scholars, a lot of those people, Eurocentric scholars and writers, got a lot of things wrong because a lot of things were lost in translation. Usikompilo lwabantu, the culture of the people that they were writing about, is and was more complex than they could understand. So it is important for us to be careful what we pass on and to find ways and methods to investigate even the authorities that we trust, whether it's Baba Credo Motwa, Usamazulu, or whether it's Mbiti, or whether it's Baba Mase, who was also a great poet and one of the preservers of ancient traditions. There are many, many throughout the African continent. So the only way to avoid miseducation is to seek both intuitively, to gain the kind of intuitive and scientific, rational faculties that we possess personally. And the other way is to study. Keep on studying. Education does not end. Even beyond the grave, as ancestors, we are educated by the new generation. They do work for us even beyond the grave. It is part of the African tradition. It is part of the ancestral tradition. I am not sure whether it's only African, but Africans practice things that connect both the living and the dead and the ones who have transitioned. There is a synergy, there is a reflection, there is a back and forth, so to speak, where I can fix things for you as a living ancestor, as a living part of a generation of the same Masego generations. If there are certain things that one of my ancestors have not done right, I can appease, I can do certain works, I can do certain rituals that can release them of their ignorance or release them of their pains, so that they can release me to not collect their karma, etc., etc., etc. But it is a deep topic, and I will not finish it in just one telling. For now, I would like to give thanks and honor to Ongcamane Okubonye on Ndlovuzidlel Khaya Ngokwesola Belusi oMaseko, bona abangena emanzini nokhuni babasa umlilo emanzini baphuma nolukhuni lisavutha. Siyathokoza kakhulu. Makhosi.
Thank you, Khosikgadi. and Mkulu Menzi Gudu Mase for gracing us with your views and your intellect on some of our traditions, miseducation. We have yet another guest who graced us with his intellect and his beliefs, and he couldn't send us a recording, though he did send me a transcript that I'll be reading on his behalf. Our guest is Cambiso Kosa, and I hope I pronounced his name properly. If not, I apologize. He also goes by the name Blackroot Science. I like the way he then said he called his transcript the bastardized ways of the Bantu, in the concept of are some of our traditions miseducation. He then says the way of life of the Bantu is the oldest and most authentic concept that gave birth to a more civilized way of living to many civilization. Our ancestors lived with the knowledge of science of all that exists in our physical reality. Nations would learn the wisdom of many things from our ancestors. This included, amongst others, the knowledge of astrology, mathematics, physics, quantum physics, the law of attraction, cause and effect, etc. They coiled it all up in a concept called Ubuntu, which in summary means I am because you are. Our ancestors understood that we reflect and project as a mirror image everything that exists exactly how we perceive reality within ourselves. Our eyes being the portal through which images from the light within ourselves is projected into reality. They understood and overstood that the physical reality is created in our own image. This means that the physical reality is not less spiritual than the non-physical reality. They are both a balance of boNtu. Through this knowledge, they understood the importance of being in harmony with self, because the cause and effect of being in harmony with self births the manifestation of a physical reality that reflects the paradise within self. They also knew if you are in misalignment with self, the manifestation of the physical reality thereof will reflect the misalignment within ourselves. Through the harmony between self and all that exists within the physical reality, our ancestors flourished. Their way of life manifested paradise. You see, Ubuntu was not only a concept that governed our spiritual lives, but also a system of governance through which we drew the knowledge of architecture and agriculture. They consciously knew that every move we make, every thought we think, and every word we say is a ritual that is also a manifestation of our reality as we see it. Our ancestors never worshipped or prayed to any deity because they knew they are one with boNtu. Abantu are the only people called by the name of the source known as boNtu, 2 Chronicles 7:14. All they had to do was to insert a Trojan horse into our ways of life through slavery. Our ancestors found themselves in the most brutal era that changed and shaped the course of history, that sought to dismantle the identity beyond recognition of the great house of the Bantu. During the physical slavery of our ancestors, religion was introduced as a program and a virus that would not only take away the identity, but the entire spirituality of the Abantu, which was the source of strength. The virus of religion, which was brutally forced into our ancestors, was the nail on the cross that saw the great house Bantu fall beyond recognition. Religion ensured that even when the chains are moved from our hands and feet, we remain mentally chained. This is how you domesticate an animal. The Bantu remain domesticated up until today. A lot, if not all of our practices, rituals or rites of passage have been infiltrated by the Trojan horse of religion. The principles and procedures of Ubuntu have been bastardized, some beyond recognition, just like religion that indoctrinated us to believe in a deity outside of ourselves, to be superior and the one and only creator of the universe who works with the angels in their different ranks. Our understanding of who and what the concept of ancestors meant have been bastardized by Christianity. We have adopted the concept of spirituality in that we speak to our ancestors, we believe that we have to invoke or summon them from a spiritual realm, somewhere either from within the magnetic field within ourselves. We adopted the concepts of spirituality and made them part of our authentic cultural practices. We looking for answers outside our grid and have forgotten the ancient knowledge that everything happens through us, not to us. Therefore, we all need to navigate and manipulate the energies around us as within our own human anatomy. For us to reach a level of consciousness and the knowledge of all there is, we have to go back to the etymology of the words of our indigenous abantu dialects. The English language is limited, hence it limits us. It limits also our understanding of our own concept. This is because we try to accommodate English by interpreting Bantu concept into a Eurocentric manner and lose the meaning in the interpretation. For example, the etymology of the word spirit comes from the Latin word spiritus, which means to breathe. Now ask yourself, what does the word to breathe mean in your Bantu dialect? Because to breathe is a function performed by the body. In my dialect, it means ku hefumula, uku hefumula, uhema. So the word spirit in its essence cannot be what we use it for. English is a limited language, so we cannot say our ancestors are in a spiritual realm because we do not have the concept of spirituality in our dialects. We cannot also say our ancestors connect us to God. Also, the concept of God and angels is not our concept. These concepts are based on belief and fear, while our concepts are based on the knowledge and love of our ancestors. In conclusion, let us relearn and protect our Bantu dialects, because these are organic dialects that do recognize us. Remember, everyone can be a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, Hindu, Buddhist, or any other religion, but to be muntu, munu, mutu, is a birthright only for the royals. We, the Bantu, are the only people that bear the name of the source known to us as Ntu, Black Root Science. Thank you so much for your views and intellect on sharing your understanding to some of our traditions, miseducation. And as you said, a lot of them have been infiltrated and were dismantled through Christianity, and we lost our ways along the way. And I thank all of our guests for gracing us with their views and gracing our podcast, Amathongo. Yindoni ya Menzi, ngiyintombi yenkosi, ngithi emakhosini dawuwe thokozani.
The unspoken truth is the catalyst for important and thought-provoking conversations that need to be had. The network tackles social ills, spiritual healing, soul-searching, and mental health awareness. To subscribe, click on the show link to follow our podcast and be part of the Unspoken Truth family. Find us on all social media platforms.